Hey, what's up everyone? It's Seals, and patch 1.3 is quickly coming, guys. And we're gonna get busy. There's gonna be a lot of things to talk about. But you guys have been asking me about Xiao a little bit more, like my predictions, something to be aware of before you get your hands on him. So let's take a closer look at our boy Xiao. Hold on, time out. Before we get right in talking about Xiao's special playstyle, his plunge attacks, if you're new, welcome. If you like what you're seeing today, make sure you guys hit that red button down below, that subscribe button, and we'll be giving some shouts to some random viewers. So if you want to get in on that, make sure you guys are subbed and follow me over at Twitch, and I'll let you guys know more about it later on. How many of you guys go out there actively plunging off cliffs using plunge attacks to kill your opponents from 100 to 0? Xiao technically won't be only using plunge attacks, but how many of us are really used to or know exactly how plunge attacks work? I know Gina is looking right into your soul, but look at the 5 hit damage. Ignore that. I know some characters have 6. There's the charged attack damage, but have you looked at this right here? Plunge damage, high and low plunge damage. What the fuck? There's 2? 3? What's going on? Just to keep this simple, if you're barely off the ground, that is the low plunge damage. But for Xiao, you're going to get the high end. Don't have to worry about that. So you're going to get the maximum damage. But check this out. Let's go back into the talents. And while ignoring how sexy Jean is, look at this regular plunge damage. For Jean, 92.9%. For our boy Xiao, it's going to be 119 rounded up. At level 6 talent, yeah, it's going to deal a little bit more damage. Not only that, he has like the highest base attack. But what's going on with these multipliers? So you're doing damage twice? Well, if you land directly on top of an opponent, you're going to deal the plunge damage, as well as for Xiao, he's going to deal the high plunge damage. So you're doing damage twice. So if you're directly above a hilichurl like you're seeing, and you plunge attack right on its head, you're going to deal, for Xiao, at level 6, 119, and then a separate of the high plunge damage, 297%, from what we know so far. It may change when it goes live, the percentages, but that's what it is for now. Now, I'm talking about this because plunge attack, while it seems very easy and spammy, and yes, you can get away with not being directly on top of them, but it does require, just like using a bow, it does require some aim, some art, some mastery, so that you can get some extra damage in. Do you really need to? Depending on the content, most likely no, but if you want to see some mega damage, like you saw in, the teaser on the official website, they showcase the double hit as well if you looked closely. So by checking out this video and knowing how this works, you can deal a little bit more damage to impress your audience. Like I said though, this is going to be a little bit tricky because depending on the enemy size, it's going to be easy if they're big and hard if they're tiny. But how can we make it a little bit simpler? While many characters work with Xiao, like Fischl can provide energy, there is Albedo if you're a Mega Whale at Constellation 4, if you're within the Isotoma range, the yellow circle, the plunge attack damage of any character is increased by 30%. Anyways, there's a lot of characters that work with Xiao, but for mostly the free-to-play audience, we're going to be using double Anemo. You don't have to, but double Anemo does help with the energy recharge for Xiao because he needs to get his burst out so he does more damage. We'll talk about that very soon. The topic we're talking about is maximizing the plunge attack damage. So we have characters like Sucrose, who is able to gather things up with their elemental skill. Not only that, she generates a lot of energy particles as long as you don't chain it back to back. There's the main character. If you tap it, it also generates 2 energy particles. You can hold it down. Those things help group things up. Venti, of course, with his ult, elemental skill, also gives energy particles. But Sucrose is really good and a cheap alternative to gather things up, as well as the main character's ult, the Tornado, especially if you're in a dungeon and you can aim it towards a wall. Now, since we're already here and we're talking about increasing Xiao's damage, why don't we talk about lowering Anemo resistance? One free way to do that is with Constellation 6 main character. Not only does her elemental burst, the tornado, the ult, whatever you want to call it, not only do they stack them up and push them towards like a wall or a corner for you to do extra plunge attack damage. Not only that, but you also get their anemo resistance lowered and also generating a lot of energy through having double anemo characters. While Sucrose cannot lower resistance, at least she can gather them up and generate energy, and she is a 4-star character. Also gives elemental mastery if you need that. Jean at Constellation 2 gives, where is it at? Gives that movement speed, attack speed, of course. It's actually really good. And Constellation 4. Now, this looks cool on paper, right? Within the field created by Dandelion Breeze, all anemo resistance lowered. If you've ever taken Jean out on a picnic, she'll punt units out with their elemental burst. Yes, there are ways to keep them in, but it's a little tricky. It requires more effort and things like that. So practically, this is gonna be kind of hard to pull off, and it's Constellation 4. Why are we even talking about this world territory? Now, Venti Constellation 2 has anemo res, and Constellation 6, just like the main character, has anemo res. But yeah, Constellation 6 and Constellation 2, kind of how to get. At Constellation 0, his elemental skill has 2 charges with a 10-second cooldown, deals a lot of damage. Not only that, it serves its purpose of generating energy when he's not in his ult state, his elemental burst state, unless they change it, of course. Maybe they do, we don't know. They did change Ganyu last minute, so we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Xiao gets the same treatment. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I think he may be changed when he is released. I highly think so. But don't get your hopes up, guys. Don't let me get your hopes up on this, okay? That's just my prediction. So this is pretty much dashing in midair. You can dash on the ground. You're going to be zip-zapping around. So you got to think about that playstyle. You need to weave these in to get energy. You may have to save one after the ult so that you can generate energy right after his ult ends. So this is pretty much mobility. This is pretty much free damage, lots of damage, but most importantly, energy. Now, elemental burst, we haven't had something like this where it just pretty much changes the character. It doesn't deal damage, so noblesse, you don't need to use the noblesse sets on Xiao. Greatly increases Xiao's jumping ability so that he can do plunge attacks. That's great. Increases his attack AoE and attack damage. More damage. Converts attack damage into anemo damage, right? So we're doing anemo damage now, not physical damage. So you're gonna benefit off the anemo artifact set, and of course the cup position, the 4th position. The effects of this skill end when Xiao leaves the field. What does that mean? When he's in some circle or something in the field? No, it means when you switch out of the character, this thing goes away, just like Razor. And you probably watched a couple videos and you have heard me even saying that he's gonna be a very selfish character. But that's not a bad thing. Some people do like just staying on one character. For me, I stayed on Ganyu for like 2-3 weeks, just on pretty much on Ganyu, and that's okay. Some people might not like that. Some people like to switch and spam keys, and that may be your playstyle. So you just need to think about this before you go all in on this guy. For those that are worried about numbers and performance, they are a little bit afraid that Xiao alone, with the support of 3 other strictly supporting the shit out of Xiao characters, may not be enough. Versus like a well-built melt comp, people are saying that maybe Xiao is not going to perform well in that regard. We'll have to wait and see. For those that are just Xiao fans, they don't give a rat's ass what he does, then like me, I'm just gonna summon it anyways. But I'll let you guys know more after I get him the initial impressions. But that's pretty much how he works. Very selfish on the field a lot. When he's off the field, he doesn't want to be off the field that long. All right, if his elemental burst is up, he got to go in there and just do massive amounts of damage, even at Constellation 0. So elemental burst, every level, the talent level, increases the normal charge attack and plunging attack damage bonus. Life drain gets weaker, so he loses less HP as higher the talent. Duration is 15 seconds and the cooldown is 18 seconds. Energy cost at 70. Now for Ganyu, energy cost went from 80 to 60, but right at release, they made the cooldown and duration the same. What will happen to Xiao? We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, guys, it is the Chinese New Year. They want high sales for the holiday season. Now, the Conqueror of Evil, pretty much boosting his damage. Remember, he is going to be selfish. He needs to deal a lot of damage without even relying on Swirl. While he is in his Elemental Burst state, he's going to do increased damage starting from 5%. That's what it looks like. So 3 seconds in, that's going to be 10%. So 12 seconds in, he's going to get the maximum of 25%. So he's going to enjoy that for like 3 seconds. Okay, and the last one, using elemental skill increases damage of the subsequent elemental skill, and this effect lasts for 7 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks. So basically, in plain English, if you can maintain 3 stacks, that's extra 45% damage to his elemental skill. And in his ult state, remember, you're getting more damage bonus the longer you're in his ult state. So that's a lot of extra damage. Holy shit. However, a little bit confusing, but just follow along with me here. While his Elemental Burst passive increases all damage, right? All damage. His Elemental Burst itself does not increase his Elemental Skill damage. But that's okay, I guess, because there are 2 passives increasing. Well, one increases all the damage and one increases his Elemental Skill. So his Elemental Skill is still going to do truckloads of damage. Now, I did pretty much chart this out, and let's say with human error, you refresh it every 6 seconds before it gets to the 7-second mark and it dissipates. In that regard, at Constellation 0, you're going to get to 3 stacks, but then it's not going to be a permanent thing. It's gonna fall off, and I guess that's okay. At Constellation 1, you get an extra charge, but even so, down the line, because the cooldown is 10 seconds, and let's say with, human error, like I said, you refresh the buff every 6 seconds, you're going to eventually lose the 3 stacks. But that is, once again, okay. But for those that have Constellation 6, they're going to pretty much, if they do the rotation correctly, they're going to be doing plunge attacks and weaving in the elemental skills, plunge attacks, weaving in the elemental skills. In that case, for Constellation 6, they'll pretty much have this passive as long as they're fighting 2 opponents. 2 opponents. I don't know why they did that, but okay, it's kind of situationally. Constellation 6, not 1, but 2. Okay. Now, what I said may change because I didn't factor in like animation canceling, and I don't know if the buff, the 7 seconds, starts ticking after the animation or right as you hit elemental skill. So I have to see this when it goes live. And since we're talking about constellations, when in the party and not on the field, Xiao's energy recharge is increased by 25%. So that's kind of weird, counterintuitive, not to that degree, but you want him on the field. But I guess when we switch to Sucrose or something like Jean, I guess he's still gonna get some benefit for that. When Xiao's HP falls below 50%, he gains 100% defensive bonus. Okay, so his constellations overall doesn't sound too great. Constellation 6, while under the effect of his ult, the mask, hitting at least 2 opponents, at least 2, will immediately grant him 1 charge of his elemental skill, and for the next 1 second, it's going to ignore the cooldown of his elemental skill. So like I said, you can pretty much spam this and keep his passive talent where he gains 3 stacks of 15% extra damage to his elemental skill. Goes up to 45. So that becomes more manageable, but that's when there are 2 targets. So overall, his constellations don't sound too crazy. Of course, they're powerful. If his elemental burst increased his elemental skill damage as well, then Constellation 3 and 5 would have insane synergy. But anyways, that's it for the constellations. As for the artifacts, early predictions, I'm going to be going with the 2-piece Verdescent Venerer. Can't pronounce this shit. 2-piece Anemo set for the increased Anemo damage, as well as the 2-piece Gladiators for the 18% attack. I mean, what else could we possibly use? If you want to go with his normal attack and charge attack builds, if you want to play him that way, it's totally up to you. You can do that. There's the Bolide set. There is, of course, the 4-piece Gladiator set as well for those that want to, just not zip zap around too much and want to get in there with the pole arm. Speaking of which, it really depends if we do need the energy recharge. I think we have to wait and see about this. Deathmatch is looking really solid for a 4-star. I know it's not free to play, but for those that have a battle pass, this one is gonna be really nice for Xiao. If I was a free to play, I would definitely go with the Black Cliff pole arm. Black Cliff pole. Crit damage on that. I know, yeah, you gotta kill the opponents, so you're not gonna reliably always have this up, especially against bosses and things like that. But even the flat stats are very good. And in the open world situations and any domains where there are staggered waves, then these are going to be great as well. Ultimately, guys, Xiao is going to be a main damage carry. How he performs, we'll have to wait and see. So if you are going to summon for him, let me know down below. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. I will see you guys very soon. Well, tomorrow, I think we'll start getting major news for patch 1.3. I'm excited. You're excited. Make sure you guys subscribe. Like this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Your boy Zeal's out. Peace.